You're listening to the Philosopher's Note on As a Man Thinketh. More wisdom in less time.
Hi, this is Brian welcoming you to the Philosopher's Notes on As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I've nominated a couple of books for the most densely packed with wisdom books out there. This one may just take the prize. Technically, it's an essay, but it's one long, brilliant quote. It's a short read, very short, 12-page PDF, and you can get a free download of it on the site. Check it out and read it. My recommendation would be to do that ASAP. I've personally read it dozens of times, and I'm excited to share some of my favorite gems. We'll start with one of my favorite quotes ever. It's called Dream Seeds. Quote, "The greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities." End quote. So what are your greatest dreams? Know that every great achievement was at first and for a time a dream. For some weird reason, we see someone we admire and make the bizarre assumption that they've always been who they are now. So Tiger Woods just woke up one morning and was the world's greatest golfer ever? Maybe not. He clearly had talent and an incredibly supportive family, but he also had a dream, an audacious vision since he was a kid to be the greatest ever. Who says stuff like that? Hint, people who may one day realize their dreams. Then, with that crystal clear intention, he planted that dream seed in the fertile soil of incredibly disciplined hard work. I'll be surprised, shocked actually, if you can find me a golfer who works harder and smarter than Tiger. Who more systematically maps out his season, his next tournament, his day, his training? You know what happens when you marry that kind of intention with that kind of impeccability? Tiger Woods. So what about you? What are you most passionate about? What is it that you and only you can give to the world? What's your greatest dream? You might already have it defined. If so, crystallize it. If not, your work is to discover your work. And as we crystallize the vision, it's always evolving and crystallizing, by the way, we need to wake up the angel that stirs in that seed through our diligent, patient, and persistent work ethic. And guess what? Give it time and your dream will prove to be the seedling of your new reality. Fun. In the process, remember to cherish your ideals. Quote, cherish your visions, cherish your ideals, cherish the music that stirs in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind, the loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts. For out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environment. Of these, if you but remain true to them, your world will at last be built. End quote. Cherish your visions, cherish your ideals, cherish the music that stirs in your heart. As you know, the world tends to be a little unsupportive, just a tad sometimes, of our highest visions, which makes it that much more important that we truly cherish our vision and our ideals. Don't flinch, don't compromise, surround yourself with people who get you, and if you but remain true to these ideals, your world will at last be built. And if you're still looking for that ideal vision, keep on mining, my friend. Quote, only by much searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and man can find every truth connected with his being if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul. End quote. Are you mining? Have you really mined your soul to discover exactly who you are and what your destiny is? Or did you kind of lazily look around and then give up? Well, no complaining allowed for you if you haven't rolled up your sleeves, busted out the pickaxes, and got deep into the mine of your soul to figure out what you're here to do. When you read a book or one of these notes, do you actually do the exercises right then and there? Or do you say to yourself, oh, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll get to that when I have some time. I'll just go ahead and fold the corner of the page so I remember to come back. Right. That's not going to get you very far. If you're committed to finding the gold and diamonds, real and metaphorical, in your life, you must learn to dig deeply at every opportunity. I've filled up dozens of journals to the questions like, What would you do if you weren't afraid? What are your greatest strengths? What are 5 things you're most proud of? What are 5 things you will be most proud of? What's your dharma? What is it that you and only you can give to the world? If you had only 6 months to live, what would you do? If you won $100 million in the lottery, what would you do? If you met a genie and he gave you 3 wishes, what would you ask for? Etc., etc. I've answered all those questions and countless others more than once, and I know that work is one of the main reasons why I get paid to read and write and improve my life. Pinch me. How about you? Are you mining? I just got an image of that Ben Stiller character coughing from the black lung he got in one day of mining in that classic movie Zoolander. You remember that? Is that you when it comes to this stuff? You kind of put on the overalls and go at it for half an hour and then come out all black and give up? Pretend like you just had the hardest day in your life? Come on. Put on your best-looking mining gear, strike a pose, and get to work. Thank you. Back to the note. Dreamers, quote, "Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil." End quote. Again, what are your dreams? Who shall you become? Hold that vision. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. The next big idea is exercise your mind. Quote, "As the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking." End quote. My mind actually hurts as I think of this one. I've been to probably one of the most challenging mental boot camps you can imagine, a 10-day silent Vipassana meditation class led by S.N. Goenka. Imagine this. You check yourself in for 10 days of silence. The last words you will speak for 10 days, aside from a few possible words with your instructor, are "thank you" when you hand over all your possible distractions to the staff member collecting your stuff. Your computer, no internet, no instant messaging, no email. Your BlackBerry, again, no email, no text messages, no calls. Your journal, no writing. Your books, no reading. Anything that you brought other than clothes and bedding. Silence. Okay, now get yourself all limbered up to get up at 4 a.m. and then sit for 10 hours a day in silent meditation. I honestly thought I was going to go insane and nearly left before the end of the second day as I watched my mind jump from thought to, oh my God, endless thoughts as I tried to do the seemingly simple, yet proving to be impossible feat of noticing my breath come in and out of my nostrils. Can't I just do it for a few breaths in a row? Nope. Torture. You may think I'm exaggerating, and I may be a little, but you go try to sit in meditation for 10 hours a day for 10 days. I actually meditated more in those 10 days than I had in my entire life combined. In the midst of all that exercising of my mind, here's some of the coolest things I learned from S.N. Goenka's teaching in my experience. Number 1, the smaller the area of focus, the greater the mind's clarity and power. And this one's huge. For the first 3 days, we simply focused on our breath coming in and out, working to feel the sensations on the triangle encompassing the upper lip to the upper nostrils. Our teacher's point was very simple. We must develop the strength of mind, called samadhi, to be able to focus our attention. And the smaller the area of focus, the greater the mind's power. I got a huge flash of insight on this one, related to setting goals in one's life. The more narrow the focus, the more powerful the intention, and the more likely you'll be able to rock it. Number 2, strong determination. This one's my favorite. During the 10 hours of meditation every day, we worked in roughly 60-minute chunks. We were allowed to move to a comfortable position and rest as necessary, except for 3 60-minute chunks each day after day 4, when we were to sit in what he called strong determination, committed to not flinching for the entire hour. We couldn't open our legs, our hands, or our eyes. This is a reasonably big deal because if you've ever sat in meditation, and especially if you don't sit a couple hours a day before the class, your body tends to get a little cranky about 30 minutes into it, but you can't move. I committed to going 17 for 17 during the course and learned so much as I honored that commitment. Perhaps the key to the success in my business life is due to my strong determination. When I committed to my last two businesses, E-Teams and Zods, failure wasn't an option, and I went through a lot of pain and obstacles to make it work. I now see just how powerful it is to bring this practice of strong determination even more powerfully to my professional life, and of course, to the rest of my life. I'll be writing a lot more on this one in the future. The third lesson is equanimity. One of my favorite words before the course, and definitely one of my favorite words now. This is one of the keys to enlightenment. As we bring awareness to our lives and wisdom to our experience of the impermanent nature of reality, we can respond with equanimity, not losing our balance of mind as we realize that all things rise and all things pass. Therefore, there is no need to crave or avoid these impermanent realities. Which leads to number 4, Anicha, Anicha, Anicha. Anicha in Pali means impermanence. It describes the reality of nature. Everything that arises passes. You, me, this emotion, that emotion, everything that we experience passes. So why crave? Why avoid? Anicha, Anicha, Anicha. And number 5, the elephant, 5 blind peeps and 5 partial truths. You may have heard this one. 5 blind people who have never seen an elephant each touch a different part and describe what an elephant is. One grabs the leg and says, an elephant is like a tree trunk. Another grabs the tail and says, an elephant is like a broom, and so on. The point, they all express their limited and partial truth of reality, and so do we all. The trick, to recognize that our vantage point is only one of many partial truths, and to appreciate the different perspectives from which others see the world. Number 6, gifts not received belong to the giver. Here's a classic story of an individual coming to the Buddha with anger and violent rage. The Buddha did nothing but calmly smile and ask the man, if someone comes to your house and offers you a gift that you refuse to accept, whose gift is it? The angry man replied, well, the person who intended to give the gift would still own it. And the Buddha said, and so it is with your anger. Refuse to accept unwanted gifts. And number 7 lesson, work diligently, patiently, persistently. I don't know how many times Gwenka, the meditation teacher, said, work diligently. And you got to picture this in his classic Burmese accent. Work diligently, diligently. Work patiently and persistently. Patiently and persistently. You're bound to be successful. Bound to be successful. And that is officially my new favorite quote. Think about that. If we work diligently, patiently, and persistently, we are bound to be successful. Amazing stuff. And the final lesson from my boot camp on exercising my mind is 5 seeds of corn. Here's a great story. The woman who heads up the household, this is in India, dies. And in Indian culture, the woman controls the family finances, so the widower needs to select one of his 4 sons' wives to become the new head. He gives each 5 pieces of corn and asks them to watch over them and bring them to him in 4 years for him to decide who will take over. The first daughter says, oh, what a waste of time, the crazy old man, and throws them away. The second thinks they may have magical powers and eats them. The third takes them and puts them on her altar next to her gods and worships them each day with the others. The fourth takes them and plants them in the land behind the house. In 4 years, each tells their story. The fourth says, we will need help getting all the corn from the hundreds of plants that have grown from the 5 seeds I planted. She got the job. So when you read James Allen, it's clear that he was influenced by Hindu and Buddhist principles of right thought. And I think he would have dug Vipassana 10-day silent meditation classes as one of the best ways to exercise your mind. Moving on to the next big idea from As a Man Thinketh, 80% of success is showing up. End quote. I love that. Are we in an echo chamber? Because I seem to be hearing that wisdom everywhere I look. From Plato, he says, the beginning is the most important part of the work. To Martin Luther King Jr., take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just the first step. To Tim Ferriss in his genius book, The 4-Hour Work Week, he says, tomorrow becomes never. No matter how small the task, take the first step now. To the eminently quotable Paulo Coelho in his classic Veronica Decides to Die, live. If you live, God will live with you. If you refuse to run his risks, he'll retreat to that distant heaven and be merely a subject for philosophical speculation. Everyone knows this, but no one takes the first step, perhaps for fear of being called insane. End quote. So what's your biggest dream? That question again. And what's your first step? It doesn't need to be the first step, just a first step that'll move you, however tiny the movement is, in the direction of your dreams. Remember, 80% of success is showing up. So take your first step and jump into the spring of knowledge. Quote, the will to do springs from the knowledge that we can do. End quote. I love that. Reminds me of Seneca's wisdom, who says, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. And David Schwartz says the same thing in The Magic of Thinking Big. He says, quote, here is the first step towards success. It's a basic step. It can't be avoided. Step 1. Believe in yourself. Believe you can succeed. And Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So how about you? Do you know you can succeed? Good. Got to feed that well from which our will to do springs. And finally, I quote, the soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also that which it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its unchastened desires. And circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. End quote. That seems to beg the obvious question. Who are you? What are you attracting? And it reminds me of the law of attraction. Check out the Philosopher's Notes on Esther and Jerry Hicks's Ask and It Is Given for a full review of the book's big ideas. And check this out. Quote, every thought vibrates, every thought radiates a signal, and every thought attracts a matching signal back. We call this process the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says, that which is like unto itself is drawn. And so, you might see the powerful law of attraction as a sort of universal manager that sees to it that all thoughts that match one another line up. End quote. Brilliant stuff. What signal are you tuned to? Guess what? You're going to attract that into your life. My recommendation? Tune into love, service, kindness, abundance, beautiful dreams, and bliss, and watch these things flow into your life. All right, that wraps up the quick Philosopher's Notes on As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Let's look at the biography, a few notes I think you'd enjoy, and then some of the sidebar quotes, and we'll call it a day. So about James Allen. He was born on November 28, 1864 in Leicester, England, and he died in 1912. He was a philosophical writer of British nationality, known for his inspirational books and poetry. Allen was 15 when his father, a businessman, was robbed and murdered. He left school to work full-time in several British manufacturing firms to help support the family. He later married Lily L. Allen and became an executive secretary for a large company. At age 38, inspired by the writings of Leo Tolstoy, he retired from employment. Allen, along with his wife and their daughter, Nora, moved to a small college in Devon, England, to pursue a simple life of contemplation. There he wrote for 9 years, producing 19 works. He also edited and published a magazine, The Light of Reason. That's adapted from Wikipedia. And if you liked this note, you'll probably like the notes on Ralph Waldo Emerson, The Power of Intention, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, Spiritual Economics, Ask and It Is Given, and The Science of Getting Rich. All right, let's wrap it up with some of those quotes from the sidebars of the PDF. We'll start with, cherish your visions, cherish your ideals, James Allen. And all of these quotes are actually going to be by James Allen. including the next one, the dreamers are the saviors of the world. And a particular train of thought persisted in, be it good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results on the character and circumstances. A man cannot directly choose his circumstances, but he can choose his thoughts, and so indirectly, yet surely, shape his circumstances. If you would perfect your body, guard your mind. And thought is the fountain of action, life, and manifestation. Make the fountain pure, and all will be pure. Pure thoughts crystallize into habits of temperance and self-control, which solidify into circumstances of repose and peace. Thoughts of courage, self-reliance, and decision crystallize into manly habits, which solidify into circumstances of success, plenty, and freedom. And finally, men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. Nice one to wrap it up on. Who are you? What are you attracting? Go out and attract your ideal. Have an awesome day, and I'll look forward to meeting you on the next Philosopher's Note.
We hope you enjoyed this Philosopher's Note. Please go to www.philosophersnotes.com to download more.